I wanted to welcome everybody to tonight's New Orleans Drawing Group Q&A talk by Markivancole. Mark is an award-winning artist and teacher. He began making art as soon as he could hold a crayon. He describes himself as self-taught, but that doesn't give proper credit to the amazing artists, historical and contemporary, whose works and methods he spent decades studying. He was juried into the Pastel Society of America as a signature member in 2013 and has painted, exhibited, and taught around the world. When not out with his wife exploring some beautiful place somewhere on the planet, he is painting landscapes, recording original music, or working on his latest novel at home in Portland, Oregon. On a personal note, I met Mark at an International Association of Pastel convention meeting 4 years ago at a dinner where a group of artists got together, and reacquainted last year where a group of us from the drawing group got together and we all talked art and philosophy, which was great. It was just really, really fun. He has several upcoming demos and workshops, which are on his website. And I want to just present and say, hi, Mark, and take it away.
Hi, and thank you so much. Yeah, it was really nice. The last IAPS when we got together, that was one of those watershed nights, when it was so good. Great conversation, great people, really enjoyed that. So when I got the invitation to come to this, I have been trying to get here for ever since IAPS, and I finally carved out space in the schedule to do it. So this has been very cool. And then to ask to do Q&A is great. So wow, thanks so much. This group is so encouraging. I just have so much appreciation for everyone's positive attitude about everybody else's work. It's really very cool. I've been painting with pastels for a long time, but I have been painting portraits on and off, just trying to, dip my toe into it. So this time I decided, okay, I'm getting serious. Let's do it. And this is the New Orleans Drawing Group is the perfect spot for that. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I just think this is a wonderful thing. This is actually for me, the first time I formally painted from live. I mean, I've done it, sketching, but not this level. So it's been really good to do it. Today, I'm going to be giving a short demo. I'll keep it short, and you can talk to me while I'm at it. I'm perfectly interruptible. Any questions that you've got, just blurt them out. And otherwise, I talk a blue streak and nobody can interrupt me. So ask Darlene; she'll tell you. Yeah, at just any point, say hi, Mark. I got a question, and we'll go with that. So to not take up the whole time doing a demo, I want to show you what I'm going to do here. This is fun. I'm cheating a little bit. I'm cheating because what somebody told me once, because I was talking about, oh gosh, portraits are so hard. I mean, the people, you're trying to get their character, you're trying to get their facial feature, you want a likeness. And they said, well, just paint it like a landscape. I thought, I suppose you could do that. That would work both ways, wouldn't it? I mean, you could paint a landscape like a portrait, you could paint a portrait like a landscape. There's no reason why not. Well, this is kind of a combination of both. This reference down here is from a fantastic is it national park now? I think it's a state park in Idaho, City of Rocks. This is the most unbelievable place. Somebody described it once as, it looks like somebody dismantled a city and just left it here. And they're all granite. It's just chunks of granite sticking up out of the ground. And if you go just on the other side of the ridge, there's Castle Rock, which is the same group of granite just on the other side of the ridge. Both of them are amazing. This particular reference photo I've had since, 20, 2006, I think I've had this. And I've always wanted to paint it. And I've just never felt like I had the skill to do it yet. And then this opportunity came up to give a demo for you guys. And I'm doing just absolutely blatant self-promotion here. I'm doing the Rocks and Stones workshop tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Saturday. But registration does end tomorrow at 9 o'clock Eastern. So if you want to come to that, sign up. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a really good time with these. And what I'm going to do today is kind of combine both. So this is such a perfect example of pareidolia, where we see faces. It's just a human thing. We are designed to recognize faces from the moment we're born. We're looking for them. And we find mom's face right there and we recognize that. Oh, okay, I see how this works. And we just look for faces everywhere and we find them all the time. And this to me was so grand. I don't remember the name of this configuration. They do have each one of these features has a name. But I don't know. It just looked to me like this wonderful grand old soul. And so I paint it like it's a grand old soul. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. If you have questions about the process, blurt them out. I'll walk you through the beginning first. I did a drawing this time. I usually don't do a drawing ahead of time. I try to just run with the strokes right off the bat. The reason I did this one is because I really wanted to get that face in there. I really wanted that right. So I gridded the whole thing out and drew this bit in very small, very light pastel pencil. Just a gray. This one here, in fact. So just a Stabilo pencil. So the next thing I'm going to do, and I don't do it always the same way, but what I want to do with this one, because the darks are what define the whole thing. So I'm going to do these darks first, and I've laid them out in the drawing already. You can see it's kind of a ghost image, but I'm going to just go for it first thing and run with it. So here we go. This is in soft pastel, which is the medium I'm most comfortable with. Let me pull up my big version here. There we go. Now I can see what I'm trying to do.
What surface are you using, Mark?
I'm using, this is the Hahnemühle, it's called Sketch Pastel. They're replacing this with the collection sketch. And I would recommend it if you find either the Sketch Pastel or the collection sketch. Before we go on any further, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's see. Here you go. That's the Sketch Pastel. This is the paper I'm using. It's 130 GSM, so it's 60 pounds. It's 100% cotton rag, and it's not a sanded paper. And most pastel artists tend to go for sanded paper. And the reason I like it is because there are things you can do with this that don't happen on sanded paper. Today, most of what I'm doing, you probably could do with sanded paper, but I'm going to make the most of this. And again, any other questions like that, please go for it.
Mark, is that the kind of velour surface? Is that
No, this is not the velour. Very good question. The velour looks very similar in terms of packaging, but it's a totally different surface. This is like cloth. It's truly astounding. And Rita Kirkman said it really well. She goes, working with velour is like an airbrush. It's like working with airbrush. And I totally agree with that. And you notice I'm going with very, very dark. This is about as dark as I would want to go, but I want to really establish these right off the bat. So I'm nailing them. The velour is something I've just recently started to use, and I am finding it fascinating as a surface. It is really, there are things you get, like, again, every one of these surfaces is like this. there's stuff that you can do with one of them that you just simply can't do with the others. And to me, that's awesome. We've got all kinds of possibilities. This behind me is done on Hahnemuthe's envelope paper, which is INGRES, and I hope I'm pronouncing that at least not without destroying the language. The INGRES is actually not a brand. It is the type of screen they use for that paper. It's mold made and it has a very distinctive grid on it. Now, I have always resisted having a set pattern on the paper, but I found that one to be surprisingly expressive. And I really love that about it. So I'm getting won over by the envelope. The only thing with the envelope that you also have to watch for is that it is a much lighter weight. It's only 40 pounds.
Is that the Canson Angra?
No, this is also Hahnemüthe. And full disclosure, I have been graciously supplied with paper by the company because I use it so much. They have agreed to send me stuff. So I am thrilled to death to be able to work with this. Great folks, terrific surfaces.
When you say you were using soft pastels, what brand is that? And
Good point. I use all kinds of different brands. This one right here is a Rembrandt. And
okay,
Rembrandt is just a little on the hard side. You can hear
yeah,
when I hit that, you can hear it's a little bit louder. What I like about the Rembrandts is that they leave the right amount of dust behind for what I'm trying to accomplish here.
gotcha.
Yeah. And they don't, there's something about the binder, the way they do with all of these different pastels. There's something about the way that company has chosen to set the binder, gum Arabic, whatever it may be, that functions differently with each of them. And I love that about them because it gives them different properties. If you've got the jack, I mean, you guys that have done this before, this is old hat. But I love how you can get a completely different look just because you picked up a different pastel. Just because you used one from a different company. So you got the Rembrandts, are slightly harder. You got Holbein, which I have not used. I understand are very good. It's semi-hard. You've got Mount Vision, which I really, really like. Their colors are wonderful. Their pastels are utterly consistent in terms of texture and the way they work. Every time you go grab one of them, they work exactly like the rest of them, and it's really amazing. Sennelier is just fantastic colors. Sometimes you get the softest stuff you could possibly ask for, and then sometimes they're so hard they're just almost unusable, and that's been a bit of an issue for me, but boy, when they work great. They're so good. And let's see what else.
Were you at IAPS and doing a demo over at the paper what?
Yeah, I was over at what's the name? Artisan ABQ.
Yeah,
and I was actually working the Hahnemuth paper there.
Yes. I think I ran into you or met you or watched you something.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was fun. In fact, it was so nice. I was having such a good time that I didn't get over to Jack Richardson to restock my pastels, and they were out of all of the colors I needed. Completely out of those colors. And I was just stunned. And you know what happened? I ended up going over to Terry Ludwig's because I couldn't get the colors I needed and I had to restock these colors. And oh my gosh, I now understand why all the fuss. Those are fantastic. So they are now one of my staples. Let's see, all right, pull it up there.
What size is that you're working on?
This is A2, which is the second cut you can get on the European size.
Yes.
They're European proportions. So it's like 16 3/8 by 23 and a half.
Okay.
Something like that. So that's the full sheet that I've got here. I've got this cropped down to about 12 by 18.
Oh,
I do that because it's an easy one to work. I can grid it out really easily. Just the proportions are simple, and it's a nice format. You can get frames that'll actually do that. I like to do, if I can, I like to do stock frames. Just so much easier for people to frame stuff up because framing's not cheap, as we all know. The other thing about this size, and is that it gives me a little bit of room to move, and I like that. It gives me get this. For some reason, one of my applications wanted to do something with my computer, and I'm like, at this stage, no, thank you. So you can see I'm putting in all of the strongest marks. They're probably not the last ones that I'll do for this, but I try to keep it pretty efficient. So they're pretty close to the last marks that'll go down on these, like this.
Mark, Mark, when you grid something up, how do you do that?
Oh, I've been adjusting that. I've been working on illustrating a series of books, and it's a 6x9 format. And what I've learned is that if I scale up, it actually works out faster. I can actually be more efficient. So I have been experimenting with putting a grid. I use a program called GIMP, GIMP. It is freeware. These guys are amazing. They basically do Photoshop for free. And there's no subscription, there's nothing like that. They'll let you know as soon as they've got an update. Hey, you want a new one? It's like, sure, absolutely free, no charge. So I really appreciated those guys. And in GIMP, I've created a grid. It's a couple pixels wide and laid out in 6x9, which is the full size of the illustration in a book, a paperback book or a hardback. And in GIMP, I will actually put the photograph that I'm going to use as my reference, or whatever the composition is, underneath that grid. And the grid on top will actually be, and this is probably more information than you need, but it will actually be, it'll do the difference instead of either lighter or darker. So if it's too dark, it'll make it lighter. If it's too light, it'll make it darker. And I can always see the grid that way. What have I got here? There we go. And today I did something even more different, which was cool. I actually made, on this same paper, I made a full grid 2 inches square with subdivisions at 1 inch square. And what that allows me to do then is to take the photograph that I've done that in GIMP, put it up on the screen with all the grid marks, and I use those as references, and I know exactly that is in row 3, number 3. This is right where that's going to be. So I can then draw, because I've got the sheet behind this one. It's just barely showing through, but I can actually draw now just that little square, and I can get my proportions right because I know that it's exactly 3/5 of the way up that bit. It's so much easier to do this. And I remember distinctly one of my kids was in art class and was very upset because the teacher was insisting that they use the grid. And the student was arguing that I don't need that. I'm an artist. I make it whatever I need it to be. And I thought, hey, that grid system probably works. Everybody's been using it for eons. And you know what? It does. It was great. So that lesson was apparently for me, not for them. And I'm grateful because it's really made a difference. It's been so much faster. I'm getting better results. Very happy with the process. So yeah, just having that sitting underneath allows me to, I'm just marking where this brush is going to go here. And I'm not going to bother with sky. We assume sky. But there it is. The drawing's already in. And that's all with one pastel, a very dark, warm gray. Not actually black, but close. Let's see. Generally, I don't go for that, but in this case, I really wanted it. Now I'm going to run for, where's my, there's a good one. Oop, that's another black. Hold on. Here we go. And work on, this is a nice cool gray, and I like this for several reasons. But one of the things I want to point out, and this is the thing about rocks, I'll never forget one of one of the people that I did a workshop on rocks earlier, and one of the people who took it said, you know, I'm just so frustrated that all of my rocks look like potatoes. And you know, that's fair. That is so common. And I thought, well, how do we avoid, you know, potato syndrome? What do we need to do? What I discovered was that if we do planes that are more square, I mean, a lot of rounded rocks, that's true, but each of them has a different plane and multiple planes rather, and to be able to do those separately makes a huge difference. Right now, I'm basically adding texture and tone, and that's all I need to do at this point. Any other questions? What you got? Everybody's got a glass of wine and is just enjoying it. That's good.
So you went from a warm dark gray to more of a mid-tone cool gray.
Yes. And I love going back and forth between temperatures. That's, to me, lively.
And so you would stay with the cool throughout, or because
Now I'm going to stay with cool for a moment. This is only one more layer. And
Yeah.
I'm using this one for places that I want to put a little bit of this mid-tone so I know where it's going. But I'm gonna layer over it with warmer stuff at different points. But right now, the other thing I want to point out, look how much texture we have. All that granite looks like granite already, and it's just the paper. I have done basically nothing other than drag a pastel without too much pressure. The only pressure is here for the real dark lines. Yeah, without too much pressure, I drag a pastel down and I get texture. And that's one of the things I love about this paper is the randomness of the surface. Remember I talked about how some of the, let's see, I'm going to go warmer on that. Some of the papers, like Canson's a great example. You got the kind of random side and you got the definitely patterned side. Some people can make that pattern work. I have a hard time with it. I find myself fighting it constantly. Some people are really good with it. But the one that works for me is the backside, which is more random, but it's really not random enough even for me. So what are my options? Well, I'm just going to put some in here. What I like about the Hanemühle is that there is absolutely no pattern to it. It is entirely random. And that to me is a real advantage because it allows me to get that gritty granular sort of look without setting up something that the eye's going to go, oh, here comes the pattern again. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. When you're talking about it, I can see how that works for you in some of the pieces that you've posted online.
Yes. That, let the paper do the job. Let the paper do the work. I've found that if I find a surface, and this is why I will choose a different paper depending on what I'm trying to paint, just because the look I want. And you're going to get the look based on the sort of paper that you have in your hand. And I love the fact that with different papers, like you use a sandpaper, every mark's going to feel different from this. And that's exactly what you need for some of those. Okay, that's as much, except for a little bit here. Let that fade out a bit. Nice. Okay, let's go warmer. I'm going to go warmer and darker at the same time. So I'm going to run with the Terry Ludwig, which has, this is the amazing thing about Terry Ludwigs. I remember I was talking to Judy Toller about it, and she said, you know, the thing about them is you don't use that much. They put down so much every time you use it that this stick is going to last me a while. Unless, of course, I get too excited about it. And, oh, there we go, there we go. So just slightly warmer. And this is what I call a creamy type. The Jack Richardsons, I haven't used Unisons, but my guess is they are the same. Some of the Senneliers, definitely the Terry Ludwigs. These are creamy. There's something about the way the binder grabs the paper that just, you're going to get a different look, and you have to use it in a different way. But oh my gosh, it's exactly what you want for some stuff. And in this case, I love how this is just a smidge warmer than what I just put down. Get something even warmer than this up here in a second. So it allows me to get some of these slightly different chemical composition, I assume, of these rocks here. But you see how easy it is to get that texture going just by letting the paper do the work. Beautiful.
And you started out defining your larger shapes. It looks
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And what I want to do now, you'll notice my moves are getting a little bit more careful. And the reason for that is just so that I can vary the strokes and increase the detail. But you notice that most of the detail that I'm getting right now, the paper's doing most of the work. I'm really not doing a whole lot of detail. I'm not trying to draw every little bit. I used to, oh my gosh, when I was doing colored pencil, wow. I would spend 100 hours on a 16 by 20. And it was painstaking. And I liked it. I mean, it was, you know, it was fun to do. But oh my gosh, it just took forever. And the reason I was into colored pencil was because it was a medium that I could pick up and put down and then grab the kid before the kid got into something. So that was when I had kids. I definitely needed to be able to be interruptible. And so that was a good way to do that. Oh, I love how this looks. This just, everything just shows up here. Now, I've only done a few colors and temperatures so far. I haven't really branched out much, but you can see how this is already coming to play. That's a little too strong. I'm not going to go that far. Down here, yes. A little bit of this. So the white of the paper, in a sort of like you did with like you would do with watercolor, the white of the paper really is necessary. You want to preserve that in this case. Now there are other ways to do it, and we can talk about those on Saturday if you want to come see it, because this is super fun to do this. But yeah, there are lots of other possibilities, different techniques. This is the direct painting, I like to call it. I also do what I call a dry underpainting, which, because this, for example, this paper does not love alcohol. It will just wrinkle up. It's too light for that. It's too absorbent. But let me get something a little bit warmer. Where do we want to go? I'm going to go back to Rembrandt. Let's get some of this tan in here. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. And with the dry underpainting, well, that's intense. That changes everything. With the dry underpainting, I actually smear it. And for a lot of people, smearing is anathema, but I tend to go with what I call the Brian Bailey philosophy, which is hey, whatever gets the look you want, do that. I totally agree with him. It's there to me, there are rules are so you can learn it, but after that, do what you got to do. And the dry underpainting with the smearing has been incredible. What I've discovered that it does is I'm going to do that with a little more purple. That'll be fun.
I think what you're
It
saying
allows
is
me to set myself up for. Oh, there we go. An eraser, which allows me to erase out all of the highlights if I'm doing it on white, or if I'm doing it on like UR dark, I can erase out all the shadows. Or Artigan Black. I don't know if any of you have used Strathmore Artigan Black. They market it as colored pencil paper, and by God, it's pastel paper. I like it much better than their actual pastel paper. It really does a nice job.
What's the name of that again?
Art again. Yeah, it's one word. It sounds like art again. And it's do I have a stash with me? I do someplace, but I can't grab it with my hands messed up like this.
I think it's called art again because it's made with recycled paper.
Oh, is that right? Is
Yeah,
it
I really
How cool
like
is that?
I really like the color ones, the pinks and the blues and
the
everything.
pinks
They're
and blues
kind
are
of
nice.
heathery.
Yeah. I like those too. I have not used them as much, but I've used the black. Their Artigan, their black is gorgeous. It's a charcoal color, and it takes pastel way more than you think it would, and holds onto it way better than you'd expect. Now you notice I'm just kind of warming up all the little edges here, changing some of the tone of some of these places. Again, not a lot of pressure, just getting it laid in here. Just enough to change it a little bit, just kind of warm that up. Let's get this a little warmer here. A couple of hints of it up here. I want something lighter than this in just a second, though. There we go. Oh, that's starting to feel good. Now, what we haven't got in this so far, and I want to pull that in, is any ambient color, really. All of the stuff I'm doing right now is the color that's actually in the rocks themselves. Let's go with the lighter one in this. And I think, there we go. One of the amazing things about rocks is how reflective they are. It's surprising how much ambient color you can get in a rock. And the more we do it, the better they look. So I really enjoy that. Let's get that rusty color in there. How are we going to do that? Let's use this one. There we go. There's fairly strong marks here. Sharp edge, because that's kind of interesting. There we go. What else we got? I want that anywhere else. Yeah, I do. I want it here. A little bit of it here. A hint of it here. A hint of it there. But yeah, I was talking about the ambient color. I really love how rocks reflect light. That is one of my favorite things about them. And when you do that, you almost, it's like the potato killer. You know, you were making potatoes there for a while, and then you start using the ambient light, and all of a sudden the potatoes are gone. They're rocks. And I absolutely love that about them. Okay, this is a really warm black here. That's good. That's a good base for what I want to do next. The fact that you can get, there we go, that just barely opens it up. Do I need this anywhere else? Just a little bit here. Ambient light. So if it's a shadow that's underneath, it is remarkable how much sky will actually show through that. It's truly outstanding. Let's see, let's set that aside. Let's use this one. There we go. A little heavier pressure. This is a Rembrandt, so I can take it. or dish it out without leaving too much in its wake. I'm going to take some of the texture out of here because I kind of like the way this thing grays out here. Let's do that. Different weathering process. We'll do a little bit of this here. Split that all the way up, but let's even it out so there's not those striations. There we go. Add a little bit of it in here so we have. Another thing I always do is I look for where can I put bits of this that make sense, because what you end up with that way is is color harmony. And since we don't have an underpainting per se, which can actually immediately set that, adding bits and pieces of this elsewhere as we go allows us to keep that harmony. And it just feels right.
Question for you, Mark.
Yeah.
The strategies that you're using in painting this rock, are they the same strategies that you used in the drawing that you did tonight of Louisina?
Slightly different. What I did with Louisina was to basically set the midtones first, and I did it. Actually, I set the blacks around it first, just so I knew where the shapes were. And then I went into the shadows with green, which is a Kung Nguyen trick from the Loomis method. And you know what, number one it does for me is it keeps me from getting precious about my colors. It's like that green is like, okay, you are totally off the grid already as far as your any plans you may have had for exact realism. Just go for it. And that helps me so much when I'm doing a subject matter that to me is new. I've been drawing figures for fantasy art and for illustrations, but it ain't the same when you're trying to get a real likeness, not just using somebody's reference and saying, yeah, kind of like this. No, I really want to get it like it is. And I'm not there yet, but I painted that. How would I describe that? I really worked the whole thing the whole time. And by the time I was done, I had changed my I had finally capitulated to the color scheme that I should have capitulated to in the beginning, which was the blue. I struggled against it for most of that drawing, and then decided that nope, got to do it. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I see. And it wasn't just for realism's sake. It was just that was the most expressive thing I could think of to do, because it's like that's what's talking to you, Mark. Stop fighting it. I've always learned every piece of art, everyone starts out with me having these great intentions. And at some point, the art basically says, nope, I'm this. And I have two choices. I can fight it and lose, or I can just get on with the program and follow where the painting wants to go. And I'm getting close to what I want to do with this. So I'm going to add in, this is going to be fun. This is a Rembrandt because I don't want to put too much down, but I want a purple. Oh, that's the one. This is great. Now you notice I'm getting bolder as I go. Started out with some very strong marks, which is good because it sets my stage. But now I'm really going for it. And notice I haven't actually finished this bit here. There's a couple of reasons for that. One of the things I've discovered with the portraits, and it's very similar with landscapes as well, is especially if you're doing a plein air, you can't nail everything right at the beginning. And what I found is that if I at least understand what I'm trying to do, I can set myself up so that in the end, I will finish the important bits when they are pretty much set, as opposed to struggling against them while they're changing. Especially when you look at light, slightly different pose. Louisina does an amazing job of nailing the pose. I'm impressed. But I found that if I save those facial features to the end, save the mouth to the last, it really seems to help me. Oh, this is really coming out. Some of these streaks down here. What else do I need? That a little bit over here. Just a smidge more up there. And then I think we're ready for the darkest darks. And the sky, which I think is fantastic. Okay, here we go. Let me go. How deep do I want to go? I'm going to do this with a purple, and I think it's going to be awesome. This is a Jack Richardson, one of those big ones that you get. Mine obviously cracked, and I've been using the 2 halves ever since. I'm kind of training them to get the right edges I want. But I love the way these read virtually black. Isn't that intense? That's wonderful. I want this to come out. Grab this top edge, sharpen that up really well. But it's purple, it's not black. It's over black, so it's going to incorporate some of that. But man, look at how much that can lay down. Stunning. I'm going to actually smear that just a little bit so that it saturates completely. Leave that open a bit. Cut this across here. There we go. Drag it a little bit here. Firm this up. Where else do we need it?
Do you ever
Reestablish
use
that bit?
eggplant? That's kind of similar.
This is similar to the eggplant. Yes, it is. I got an eggplant. Yeah, eggplant is intense, and boy, do I have to be careful with it. Because it will, yeah, there you go, eggplant. And it has a very similar feel to the Jack Richardson, but it doesn't grab quite the same. So it's really fascinating to know how much of this you can put down. That's fantastic. Just sharpen that up a little bit. How are we doing? We got another 15 minutes.
Yeah, you've got 15.
Cool. I'm actually going to finish this. Yay.
But we don't ring a bell at,
You're very generous.
just enjoy,
That's awesome.
enjoying.
I think this is going exactly where I want it to go. So I'm actually quite pleased that I'm not struggling with this at all. You know how it is. Sometimes you just do. But I set myself up properly by doing that really careful drawing first in this case. And I'm really happy about that. Let's just make sure that line is obvious. There we go. Separate those 2 rocks. Here's an interesting thing that I have learned about both phase and to your point, Darlene, I did use some of the techniques. For example, I will tone an area and then carve in the details or carve out the details. If I'm doing a light over dark, I will be carving out I will be adding highlights and stuff, but I do a lot of negative space drawing or painting, because very often if I try to draw the thing as opposed to everything but the thing, I end up getting really precious about the marks, and this keeps me from doing that. And strangely enough, you actually end up drawing the thing. You guys are familiar with Betty Edwards' Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain? That wonderful book? Yeah. Oh, she's such a champ. I am forever grateful for that book. I recommend it to anybody who's, toying with the idea. Well, I always wanted to draw, but I never really felt like I could. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You're just using the wrong side of the brain for it. And she has an exercise in there with just all negative space drawing. And that was a terrific eye-opener for me. And I use it all the time now.
Thanks for mentioning that. That's kind of one of those things that would be really wonderful to revisit.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. In fact, the exercises themselves are fantastic. where she does like a pure contour drawing where you're looking at your left hand and drawing it with your right, or what you're looking at your non-dominant hand and drawing it with your dominant hand. That is amazing. Now finish this up here. But stuff like that, I find that just going back to those exercises has continued to teach me a lot. In this case, you notice that I have a bunch of stuff going on, and now I'm literally carving the rocks out by putting in the heaviest shadows. This eggplant is exactly what I want. I'm going to put this other one back. Dang. So cool. But yeah, I do that a lot. I will actually start with a toned area that might have some shading to it, and then I'll just start carving at it. But look how much I'm just letting the paper do the work. I'm just saying, yeah, I got lines here, got lines there. And I can be really free with it. I don't have to struggle with getting every little section of it right. Let's get this really solid here. It's a nice eye anchor there. Let's make it so. Oh, love it. All right, so I've talked about using ambient light. I haven't used any ambient light yet, but let's do it because we've only got 10 more minutes. But we are doing well. So this, to me, is what makes the thing sing, really. I absolutely love how when we got the shadows in, we know where our darks are, we're all happy with that. It's intense, oh, let's break that up here. Here we go. All the wonderful graphic lines that we get out of this. Love those bits. And then if we go in and we put the light in, once we get atmosphere, everything jumps. I just love it. Get that coming across. Let's just do a couple more little things here. And I can actually, if I want to, I'll add a striation the way I like it, just because I like the way it looks and it reminds me of what I was looking at. Doesn't have to be exactly what I'm looking at. And boy, did that take me a long time to learn. I wanted to be perfect. I wanted it to be exact. I wanted it to, my goal was, if you had climbed this mountain and I had painted the same mountain, you would be able to find your route in my painting. I was absolutely adamant about that. And you know what? Boy, they were stiff. They were so stiff. And my wife, whom I've learned to listen to over the years, but artistic stuff, she has a terrific eye. She said, why does it have to be exactly the same? Because that's what's there. That's why I'm drawing it. And what I discovered after the fact was that no, if you allow the viewer a little bit more room, I'm doing my foliage here just to make sure I got that blocked in. Here. Let's say there's some back here because it'll kind of finish it off nicely. We'll go up above it a bit too. If you allow the viewer to actually do what has been referred to over the centuries now as the beholder's share. The beholder, the person who's looking at the thing, actually brings something to the party, and the more room you leave them to bring stuff to the party, the more fun their party is. And that took me a while to learn. But once I started getting that, I was pretty stoked. So I'm getting this in here because I want my last marks to be a little more ambient. Let's see. Let's do that with an indigo. Here we go. All right, this is part of what I'm talking about here. I've switched to a very cool indigo blue. Indigo, it's and the reason I'm using this is because it really grabs, oh yeah, really grabs the a little bit of suggested sky. Now the fact I didn't paint the blue over the top basically leaves us, we have to actually tell the viewer, hey, there's sky up there and it's blue, because I'm actually putting that blue in here. Now, if I were to put a slightly different color in, it would be reflecting something that's near. For example, this green, if I were next to the rock itself, I would make sure that green was in there somewhere, because the rocks would be reflecting the light that was reflected off of the foliage right next to it. I'm gonna put some of this down in here. And we'll do a little bit of it here just for texture. What else do we need? We need anything else? Not really. That's pretty cool. And then, but now I really want to get in there. Where do I want it? I want purple. I love what purple does. It's like instant atmosphere when you do this. There it is. Oh yeah. So now all of a sudden that underside isn't just a black mass. It's got reflected light in it. And that, now here's another thing. You've got little bitty dots of stuff that I don't want, and I just take them out one at a time. Literally. That way I get exactly the amount of saturation I want, but no more. And that's really important. I find that, here we go, let's get some of this down here. Yeah, baby. Where else do we want it? We want a little bit of it here. Just a hit of it. A little more of a hit of it here. And you see how the atmosphere shows up when I do that? I'm not sure if that's really obvious. Let me zoom in just a little bit for you here. There you go. You can see it a little bit better. So if I'm going in here, I'm just dropping in bits of light, and it absolutely changes it. The viewer's sense of it is that all of a sudden we have a luminosity that wasn't there before. And I'm putting it on the undersides of things because it's reflected up into it. See, I can put some here. Oh, that's cool.
It really
And
brings
again,
out the dimensionality too.
doesn't it? Yeah, all of a sudden it feels like you got that other plane. Much more obvious here. Well, same thing down here.
What tool did you use to smudge or remove
Oh,
stuff?
this is the dirtiest stump blender ever.
Stone. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a basic stump blender. And I grabbed this thing with dusty hands so much that it has dust on it. In fact, it has so much dust on it that I will use it to draw with. If I'm doing a sketch first, I will often draw with the stump blender with dust on it. And if I need more dust, I'll just grab some from here. There's plenty. All right, let's get a little bit more light in here. We're just going to suggest that there's light through some of these bits. Oh man, I love what that does. And I'm going to throw it up into the other sections too, so that it doesn't feel like, oh, that's awesome. Oh yeah. Again, color harmony. I want to make sure it's in enough places that the eye says, oh, how come it's not here? I was just going to mention that my wife has an incredibly good eye. She will not admit this, and I'm glad it's going down and being recorded, because now it's for the record for sure. No, she's really got an excellent eye. She's a terrific photographer. Will never admit it. But her sense of composition is outstanding. And if you ever want to see somebody, just casually make beautiful decorations on a table, she doesn't even think about it. She just puts stuff out there and she makes a still life out of it. It's beautiful. But if ever she says to me something like, I don't know, I just don't understand this bit here. Oh, I know I've screwed up. I'm absolutely sure that's wrong. And usually she'll point out the one thing that I felt like I couldn't actually fix. But that's the challenge. And I really appreciate her willingness to kind of swallow and try to tell me stuff. All right, what do I want? Do I need highlights anywhere that I haven't got? I don't know. I kind of like letting the paper do the work. If you want to make something lighter, make everything around it darker. That's a Susan Kuznitsky trick. So I'm toning some of the other stuff just to make sure everything else looks like it's lighter. This is a Rembrandt. It's actually a gray blue. So it's very, very cold. And it allows me to get some of these things in here without give it some solidity without actually giving it too much more color or texture. And it keeps me from putting like a white down, which just starts feeling artificial. There we go. Yep. All right, let's finish up a little bit down here. That's cool. Let's make sure that it feels good up here. I felt a little too disconnected. Now it feels connected. And let's get our grass in. Or the brush here. Probably junipers. You can go even lighter than that. That was a Rembrandt. Let's use something softer.
Mark,
This should work.
can you move the zoom out?
Oh, yeah. Move the photo back.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a little better. Yeah, thank you. Forgot I had you zoomed in there. Yeah, because this is the last of it here. All right, here we go. Go even lighter than that. Let's do it. There we go. Actually, this is kind of fun because it's pushing the color a little bit. Nice. Again, I'm letting the paper do the work. I am not painting every little brush. Oh, that's fun. I like how that suddenly glows. Oh, that's fun. Let's put some more down here. This place, I've seen it in early winter and I've seen it in summer. And both times it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. City of Rocks is incredible. If you ever get a chance to go, definitely go. It's kind of out of the way down in the boondocks, but oh my gosh. Let's see how light can I go? Let's try this. There we go. I'm going to do this with a pinkish first. And then follow up with an ochre. We don't really need to say a lot down here. We don't need a lot of attention down there. Here, let's use. Try to find something just a bit more muted. There we go. Back to this one. That works. Leave some of that pinkish showing because that gives us some interest. Put that up here even. Yeah. Yeah, I call it good. Hey, I'm a little bit late, but I made it. Thanks, folks.
It's fabulous. And I
Any
can
last
see,
questions? I'm willing to answer still.
I mean, I can see working this like you'd work a portrait.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. And
For a moment, I thought you were going to do it literally because I kept seeing a profile in this rock.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I loved about these rocks. It feels to me like we're looking at an old somebody who's been here for eons and was a chief probably. That's what I see when I look at this.
Yeah.
And to be able to just put it out there and say, yeah, and guess what? It's the bones of the earth showing up here. That and my camera and my monitor are all over where I'm pointing right at them right now. That's my reference over there. So I'm 90 degrees to my reference. I'm painting 90 degrees to my reference, and I do that on purpose. I've tried to put the reference nearby, but what I've discovered is that I had the reference like right here. I'd be looking at it and I would have my reference right next to it. And unless I'm holding it in my hand and I can hold it at 90 degrees to my face, I skew it exactly as I see it off center up there. And it was driving me crazy. I couldn't figure out why every time I look at the thing and I check it, I'm good. And then I step back and it's skewed. And I come back close again and it looks right. And I step back and it's skewed. And then I realized, you know what? 90 degrees. Put your reference 90 degrees to yourself and you can always see it square on. And that kept me from skewing stuff. So it's a personal problem, I guess, but it works for me to solve that.
I don't know. I think you just gave me an aha moment.
Oh, looking at the doing the models like here, this is a whole different way of doing it, because from a photograph you've got 2 dimensions already. From a model, you're trying to discern 3. Even on a monitor, you're still doing that. So yeah, it's but yeah, having it 90 degrees to me made all the difference. Solved all kinds of problems.
And the light that you're using
This
above,
here?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So my lighting setup is to try to get at least a semblance of a neutral.
Right.
This, I have 2 IKEA angle lamps with warm LED bulbs in them. Those are warm. This is actually a 4-foot LED bar that you can get at the local hardware store. They had them on sale and I bought one. And it's great because you can go either warm or cool. So what I've learned to do is to set this to cool, set the 2 warm ones aiming at the white ceiling, so I get indirect light from the warm ones, and I get semi-direct from this. Now you'll notice I got weird stuff going on here. It was too bright, even at the lowest setting. I mean, you can adjust it down, 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 down. But it was so bright, it was glaring off of this piece of masonite that I use as a backboard. And I thought, wow, how am I going to get that to stop? And what I thought, if I just had a film that I could put over it. And then I realized copy paper is white and it's absolutely perfect for this thing. So I literally taped 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of copy paper up here, and to keep it from glaring off of this top bit, I put a couple of little sheets hanging down that I've taped onto it there. It works. This has been working like this for, I put that about, 3 years ago? Yeah. And it hasn't come down and nothing's happened to it since. It's been just great. And it's just, a bar from a hardware store and a tape. So that gives me about as close as I can get to color correct neutral light.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, any last questions? Well,
Do you have, Mark? I
Yeah.
was so intrigued to hear about your use of GIMP.
Yeah.
That how is GIMP?
GIMP, GIMP, yeah, like you had a bad leg or something, yeah.
Yeah, and the way you could get sort of all the crossbars on that and a grid system. Do you have a photo of what your reference looks like with that?
Yes, let me change this one. I'll get it for you. There.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's super, super helpful. So I know I've got, and I can scale this to any size I want. If I wanted to go literally 6 inches by 9 inches, I could be there. But if I want to go 12 by 18, I just make a 2-inch square out of those. And I know that it's square number 1, 2, 3.
Amazing. Because I often, if I'm doing multi-figural scenes, it's so complex that I often need to kind of, it's helpful to have a little bit of a grid as a reference.
Yeah.
But
yeah, totally. But anything that's got to be
right.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, is this an app or is this gimp.com or where do you access this?
Let me look that up really quickly. I should be able to get to it right here. Here, hold on. I got it here. Let's see, help about new image manipulation program. Visit the GIMP website and that, let me just open the link. I'll tell you exactly where it is. It is gimp.org.
.org.
Yeah.
Okay.
GIMP.org. And you go in there, and again, it'll work for a Mac, it'll work on a PC, it'll work on whatever you need it to. I really appreciate how they've set this up and the fact that they give it away. They literally give it away. And I am really grateful because when I moved to a different PC, I had a very old version of Photoshop and I did not want to go the subscription route, and it's just driving me crazy. And you know what? These guys, this does everything I needed to do.
Wow.
I mean, 99% of what Photoshop can do, GIMP will do. And I just simply, if I wanted, so I have a GIMP XCF file that is a 6x9 grid. And I've got one in vertical, I got one in horizontal. And if I put my photo down, I crop it to the same size, I set it to 1800 by 1200 pixels. There's my 12 by 18. And then I simply import that grid file as a layer, open as layers. And it just pops right on top of the thing. I take the background out and bingo. It does exactly this. And it takes me, I mean, I did that 3 or 4 times today with different photos. It's just not hard at all. It almost in the time it takes for me to tell you it's done.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. And again, 0 cost.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That is so valuable. And I am so impressed by your energy and enthusiasm attacking these rocks. I mean, it's just I bowled over, and it's an incredible piece that you created. So
I'm very glad you enjoyed it. Here's the photo of it by itself. This is just the easel.
Wow.
Yeah. You can see my piece of masonite behind it. Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for indulging me just so I could paint rocks today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And your plan, the plan that you have to go forward, and then you're going against your plan, and as you said, the rules. It was just a great combination of your discipline and your laissez-faire to let the art take charge.
That's a good description.
And we want to really thank you for this extended demo and all the explanation. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It was fun.
Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Thanks again.